Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरये।
ततो जयमुदीरये।
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके
भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
We are reading from Canto 5, chapter 17, verse number 24, the last verse of this chapter. यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
निर्मितां कर्हि कर्म पर्वणिं
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
यन्निर्मितां कर्हि अपि कर्म पर्वणिं
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
मायां जनोऽयं गुणसर्गमोहितः
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
न वेदनिस्तारणयोगमञ्जसा
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
तस्मै नमस्ते विलयोदयात्मने।
But to word meanings. Yat,
Yat,
by whom,
by whom,
nirmitam,
nirmitam,
created,
created,
karhi api,
karhi api,
at any time,
at any time,
karma parvanim,
karma parvani,
which ties the knot of fruitive activity,
which ties the knots of fruitive activity,
maya,
maya,
the illusory energy,
the illusory energy,
janha,
jana,
a person,
a person,
ayam,
I am,
this,
this,
guna sarga mohita,
guna sarva mohita,
bewildered by the three modes of material nature,
bewildered by the three modes of material nature,
na,
na,
not,
not,
veda,
Veda,
knows,
knows,
nistarana yogam,
Nistarana Yogam,
the process of getting out of material entanglement,
the process of getting out of material entanglement,
anjasa,
Anjasa,
soon,
soon,
tasmai,
Tasmai,
unto him,
unto him,
the supreme,
the Supreme,
namaha,
Namaha,
respectful obeisances,
respectful obeisances,
te,
Te,
unto you,
unto you,
vilaya udaya atmane,
Vilaya Udaya Atmane,
in whom everything is annihilated,
in whom everything is annihilated,
and from whom everything is again manifested.
and from whom everything is again manifested.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all of us conditioned souls to this material world. Therefore, without being favored by Him, persons like us cannot understand how to get out of that illusory energy. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the cause of creation and annihilation. Purport. Krishna clearly states in Bhagavad Gita, Devi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratya mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Translation. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. All conditioned souls working within the illusory energy of the Lord consider the body to be the self. And thus they continuously wander throughout the universe, taking birth in different species of life and creating more and more problems. Sometimes they become disgusted with the problems and seek out a process by which they can get out of this entanglement. Unfortunately, such so-called research workers are unaware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His illusory energy, and thus all of them work only in darkness, never finding a way out. So-called scientists and advanced research scholars are ludicrously trying to find the way of cause of life. They take no notice of the fact that life is already being produced. What will be their credit if they find out the chemical composition of life? All the chemicals are nothing but different transformation of the five elements: earth, water, fire, air and ether. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the living entity is never created. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. There are five gross material elements and three minor material elements: mind, intelligence and ego. And there are eternal living entities. The living entities desire certain type of body, and by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that body is created from material nature, which is nothing but a kind of machine handled by the Supreme Lord. The Lord gives the living entity a particular type of mechanical body, and the living entity must work with it according to the laws of fruitive activity. Fruitive activities are described in this verse, karma parvanim mayam. The living entity is seated on the machine, and according to the order of the Supreme Lord, He operates the machine. This is the secret of transmigration of the soul from one body to another. The living entity thus becomes entangled in fruitive activities in this material world. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mana Shashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. The living entity is struggling very hard against the six senses, which include the mind. In all the activities of creation and annihilation, the living entity is entangled in fruitive activities, which are executed by the illusory energy Maya. He is exactly like a computer handled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The so-called scientists say that nature acts independently, but they cannot explain what nature is. Nature is nothing but a machine operated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one understands the operator, his problems of life are solved. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam janmanamante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he is actually in knowledge, surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. A sane man therefore surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus gets out of the clutches of the illusory energy Maya. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of 5th canto, chapter 17, entitled The Descent of the River Ganges. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpataro Vishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataro Vishta Kripa Sindhu Vecha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So we are discussing the last verse of this chapter, and this is a conclusion of the prayers of Lord Shiva, which he was praying to Sankarshan. And here he speaks about the illusory energy of the Lord. And Prabhupada in the purport, he gives the entire conclusion of devotional service. Always he does in his purport, he explains everything in the last chapter, means last verse of the chapter. And he gives the entire conclusion how everyone is bound in this material world. And he speaks many things in this purport, a huge purport, where he begins with speaking about the scientists, that how they are trying to find life. They are trying to find life, and so they are trying to discover life, but then life is already there. What's the big credit to them? And like that he continues that how everyone in this world is stuck. And in this prayers also clearly it's mentioned, the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead binds all of us conditioned souls to this material world. And then, therefore, without being favored by him, persons like us cannot understand how to get out of that illusory energy. So, of course, here Lord Shiva is praying, of course, he understands who the Supreme Lord is, he is the greatest Vaishnava. But out of humility for all of us, he is praying like that only by the Lord's favor can we understand the Lord. Without that, every one of us is covered by that curtain of illusory energy. And that is what the verse which Prabhupada begins the purport with, Devi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratya mam eva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. That this illusory energy of mine, it's very, very difficult to overcome. And here Lord Shiva is also saying the same thing, that it's very, very difficult to overcome. And unless someone has the favor of the Lord, he cannot get out of these clutches. We know that another famous shloka, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhavet grayam indriye sevan mukhe hi jivado swayam eva spuratyata. that we cannot understand the Lord by our own blunt senses. Because our senses are said to be material senses, blunt senses, and we cannot understand something which is spiritual by the material body or the material senses. Only when we engage in service of the Supreme Lord, only when we do things to get His favor, only we endeavor to serve the Supreme Lord so that He is pleased and He showers His mercy, or we get His favor, then we can understand Him, or then we can get out of this clutches of the material nature. Otherwise, just like Prabhupada points out about the scientists who think that nature is independent and who try to manipulate the nature, thinking that they can manipulate the nature in whatever way they want, but not understanding the Supreme Creator. Like Gita talks about these people, Maya Aprita Jnana. That they have lots of knowledge, they have lots of intelligence, but their intelligence is bewildered by illusion. And that's why they don't understand what is the science behind this nature, how this nature is working. And that is what in the Prabhupada explains, that they are trying to find out the different chemical compositions of life, this and that. Not understanding that the entire elements that are there, the body is made of the gross and the subtle elements, including earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. These are all energies of the Lord. And we ourselves, the living entity as it's given here, we are also superior energies of the Lord. That the Gita clearly says. And everyone is rotating in the cycle of birth and death, based on his activities, based on his karma. That's what the shloka says, karma parvani mayam. That based on the karma of living entity, based on whatever activities he do throughout his life, he keeps on struggling in this world. And why does he perform these activities? Because of the contamination of the mind. Mind and the six senses, they are the ones who force him, mind and the five senses, they are the ones who force him to engage in all these fruitive activities, and the person keeps on being stuck. And when it comes to material nature, it is also not independent. So what kind of body the material nature gives, how it works, that is also very clearly explained by Prabhupada, that it's just like a computer. Supreme Lord is operating that computer, and whatever it says or whatever coding is done, based on that a new body is given. Based on the activities, it's not random that material nature, whatever it wants, it will give the body to a person. But based on the activities of the living entity, based on the different karma he performs, then the material nature gives a corresponding body. And finally he says, Lord Shiva in his prayer says, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the cause of creation and annihilation. Because as Prabhupada explained, just by surrendering unto him, or just by offering his obeisances, just by fully surrendering unto the Supreme Lord, only then a person can get the favor of the Supreme Lord and can understand who the Supreme Lord is. That's why in the last part of the purport he ends with, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate. That only when the person realizes after many births that who is the cause of all causes and surrenders unto Lord Vasudev, then he is a great soul, or then he is able to understand the Supreme Lord. And that's why he says, a sane man therefore surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus gets out of the clutches of illusory energy. So that is how the process, that is how Lord Shiva is teaching all of us in these prayers. We see in all the Bhagavatam prayers, very amazing things are taught about different ways of surrender and how we can get out of the clutches of illusory energy just by surrendering to the Supreme Lord. A similar verse like this we are discussing here, similar verse comes in Kunti Maharani prayers also. So even Kunti Maharani prays like that to the Lord, that Maya Javanika Channam, that by this curtain of illusory energy. So everyone in this world is covered by this Maya of yours, or this Javanika Channam, or the curtain that is there of this illusory energy. And that is the reason people are not able to understand you. And that in further she says in the prayer, Na lakshase mudho drisha. That people are not able to understand, people are not able to see you because they are covered by this illusory energy of the Lord, or they are covered by this Maya of yours. And that's why finally she says in that verse, Nato Natya Dharo Yatha. That Supreme Lord, he's just like an artist. He comes here, he performs a role, and then he goes back. But then people whose vision is covered by this curtain of illusory energy, they don't understand all this. They think that Lord is just like us, he is also doing things just like us, and they think that Lord is also one of them. But then this is only because of being covered by this Maya, or the illusory energy of the Lord. And that's why she says that Maya Javanika Channam Agya Dhokshajam Apyayam. The Supreme Lord is irreproachable, that anyone and everyone cannot approach the Supreme Lord. Because he is beyond our senses. Adhokshajam, he is beyond our senses. only a person who surrenders to the Supreme Lord, he can approach the Supreme Lord. And one more very amazing thing we can see compare these prayers of all the great personalities. Here Lord Shiva is saying that it's very difficult to understand the Supreme Lord without being favored by him. And all the great personality we see the same thing we'll see in their prayers, the mood of humility that is there. All of them say it's very, very difficult for them to understand the Supreme Lord without his mercy. Even though these personalities have understood the Supreme Lord. So Kunti Maharani in those prayers she continues that Tatha Paramahamsanam Amalam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartham Katham Paschema Hi Striya. So there she is also saying the same thing, that you are understood by great people like who are Paramhamsas. Yesterday we heard in the Prabhupada lecture the definition of Paramhamsa, the great devotees who are like swans. Like swans, they have this quality of taking the milk out of water. Same way these Paramhamsas or very, very elevated saints, they know how to take out the thing relevant, or they know how to connect everything with the Supreme Lord. So she is saying that Paramhamsas, Munis, great Munis, great people who are free from all contamination. They are trying to understand you by this devotional service, but how can I understand I am just a woman? Katham Paschema Hi Striya. How can I understand I am just a simple woman? And same way here, Lord Shiva is also praying out of humility that it's very, very difficult to understand you without your mercy. So this we see the amazing mood of humility in these great personalities who have understood the Lord, who know the Lord, but still they say that it's very, very difficult for them to understand the Lord. This is a humble position they take, and this is just for teaching all of us. So now, after this, today is also we know the appearance day of Lochan Das Thakur. So we'll discuss something about the glories of Lochan Das Thakur, that how he also fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, but at the same time he also maintained a mood of humility. Throughout in many pastimes we see he also made a very, very simple mood of humility. He had that mood of humility, even though he was also a very, very great elevated saint throughout his life. So these days that are there, very, very auspicious days. We have 2 days of Acharyas. One we call the Avirbhav, that is the appearance day, and one we call the Tirobhav, when the great saint disappears from the planet. And both of such days are just opportunities for us to glorify these great saints, to discuss about them, these personalities, so that we can understand how we can get their mercy, and we can also discuss about the legacies they have left, or different things they have done throughout their life. And one of the most important thing that all these acharyas have done, they have written so many books or written so many scriptures, which we can read, which we can understand and know more about the Lord. So now when it comes to Lochan Das Thakur, it's described that he appeared in Bengal in a place called as Burdhavan. So in this place he appeared 30 years, around 30 years. The exact year is not known because multiple references were given. But it said he appeared 30 years after the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is time he appeared in this family, and his family was a Vaidya family, or they were Ayurvedic doctors. And it's described that right from his childhood he had interest in spiritual activities. He used to discuss about Krishna Katha with his friends. He had very much interest inclined to spiritual activities. And he became a disciple, or he accepted Narhari Sarkar as his guru. Narhari Sarkar, who was again a very, very famous, renowned devotee in Bengal of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Very, very great devotee who had composed many bhajans. He was a very, very famous Kirtaniya also. And he had composed many bhajans in glorification of the Supreme Lord, or glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And here we see Lochan Das Thakur, he accepted Narhari Sarkar as his guru. Now it's described that he also, Lochan Das Thakur, throughout his life, just like we have Narottam Das Thakur, is very, very famous. There are many bhajans written by him, which are very famous, and he composed in a very poetic way. It's described that even Lochan Das Thakur was gifted with that talent. He also composed many prayers, many bhajans, and primarily focused on establishing the identity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he also had a very, very poetic style, very, very amazing style. And he was also very famous for his kirtans, just like Narottam Das Thakur. And it's described he learned all this art from his guru, who was Narhari Sarkar. So now when it comes to his detailed knowledge about his childhood and all those things, so it's described that is not very detailedly explained in any of the scriptures. But few pastimes we find here and there, which we'll try to discuss. So one of the pastimes that is given is, so Lochan Das Thakur, he was married at a very, very young age. So in the past it used to happen, people who were married at a young age, And then after they grow a little old or they become little adults, then they actually used to live together. So it's described Narottam Das Thakur was also married to in the village of Amedpur at a very, very young age. And after that it's described, since he had taken, or he was living in the ashram of Narari Sarkar, he was learning from this. With time his interest in Krishna Katha, interest in all these things increased more and more. And naturally when a person's interest in all these things increase, naturally he becomes more and more renounced from material life. So now what happened is, after his marriage, when his wife, or that young girl, she also became little adult and he also started growing. Now the parents of that girl became worried, because they saw that this person is extremely renounced, he is always engaged in Krishna Katha, he is always living in his ashram, in the ashram of his guru. And will he come to, or will he actually live with his wife, will he actually fulfill the duties or not? So there is a very interesting story that comes, that their father, the girl's parents, approached Narari Sarkar, his guru, and told him that he is not taking any interest in material life, he is not taking any interest in all these things, and he is married to a wife, he should take care of her. And that time it's described that Narari Sarkar, he ordered Lochan Das that you go to the house, or you go to their house and you take care of the wife. So then it's described that finally Lochan Das agreed, because he was ordered like this, and he started going to that village where her wife used to stay. But it's described that since he was going there or he didn't remember much about that village, so he didn't knew the directions of the house of that person. So while he was going there, so he was searching for the house, it seems he saw one young lady. And he asked her and he addressed her as Mataji. He addressed her as her mother. He asked her that, Mataji, where is the house of so-and-so personality? So she guided him, she told him that the house is there, and finally he went to that house. And there it's described, as soon as he came inside the house, he saw the same lady that was there, because he had seen his wife at a very young age. So the same lady who he had addressed as Mataji, the same lady was present there, and she was the one who was supposed to be his wife. So now he tells that to the father of that lady, that I have addressed her as Mataji. And then it's described throughout her life he treated her as a mother only. And throughout her life he was engaged, he was busy in the worship of Guru and Gaurang, and he treated her wife as a mother because of that address. That is what the pastime is given in short. Because he was completely renounced, he was more attracted to the worship of Guru and Gauranga. And it seems the wife's father also gave him permission, okay, no problem, you can serve your Guru. And that's how he spent his later part of life, worshipping or following the orders of his Guru. So now we know Lochan Das Thakur had composed many bhajans. Among them, few were very popular and few were the ones which Prabhupada also sang many times. Prabhupada also gave his purports on. And one of the bhajans he composed is Parama Karuna Pahu Duijana. So apart from these, many other bhajans we know which have been composed, which we sing also regularly, composed by Lochan Das Thakur. And also one very famous, one very important scripture which he wrote was Chaitanya Mangal. Mangal means auspicious and Chaitanya means the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya were giving them. So now we know three scriptures are there which describe the pastime. Three primary scriptures are there. Actually it's described, there are many scriptures which describe different pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. But three which are popular among the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are, one is Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we primarily read, which was written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Second was Chaitanya Bhagavat, which was written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. And third is described as this one, Chaitanya Mangal, which was written by Lochan Das Thakur. So now it's described when Lochan Das, he was staying in Srikhand, in his Guru's ashram, when he was staying there, when he was serving his ashram. That was the time when he was serving his Guru, and his Guru being pleased by him, he taught him many things. He taught him about the science of devotional service, he taught him about the art of Kirtan, and later he also gave him an order. So it was Narari Sarkar who gave him an order to write a biography on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or to write a biography on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. So it's described that Lochan Das, he took this order very seriously, and that's why he wrote this Chaitanya Mangal based on the events written by Murari Gupta in his book called as Chaitanya Charita. So now Murari Gupta was we all know Murari Gupta was an incarnation of Hanuman, and he was a personal associate of the Lord, and he knew he was there with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for most of the time when he was in Bengal. So he had jotted down the events or different pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a book called Chaitanya Charita. And from this, Lochan Das Thakur took the different events, and then he wrote this scripture which was called as Chaitanya Mangal. And why it is called as Mangal? Because it's describing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the most auspicious, or whose name creates auspiciousness in all living beings. Now it's also description also comes that even when he wrote this scripture, Vrindavan Das Thakur's scripture, that name was also Chaitanya Mangal. So which we now call as Chaitanya Bhagavat, even that time that scripture was also known as Chaitanya Mangal. But later it was discussed among the saints that now two scriptures have the same name, and they only recommended Vrindavan Das Thakur to update the name of the scripture, that you name it as Chaitanya Bhagavat. And some scripture or some reference to the Chaitanya Bhagavat also comes in Chaitanya Mangal, where Lochan Das Thakur he writes that I attentively pay my obeisances to Vrindavan Das Thakur. His Bhagavat songs have enchanted the entire universe. So here he is talking about Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, that he is saying I pay my obeisances to Vrindavan Das Thakur, whose songs or whose writings have enchanted the entire universe. And this is how one more thing we see in this, the mood of these acharyas when they are writing these books. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, when he wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrit, it's described there also he pays his obeisances to Vrindavan Das Thakur. And there he glorifies Chaitanya Bhagavat. There he says that what are you all doing? You should read Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's a very, very amazing scripture describing the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes in his own script when he wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrit. And same way here also, when Lochan Das Thakur was writing Chaitanya Mangal, he was also glorifying Vrindavan Das Thakur's composition. And this way we can see that all of these acharyas, they have this mood of non-enviousness. They are not envious of each other. Oh, this person has written the scripture, what if I also write? Or they don't have any mood of enmity amongst each other. Rather they say that my composition is not at all important, this is not very important, you should read their words. This is the mode of non-enviousness they have towards each other. And also one more thing, interesting thing that was described is that whatever pastimes were covered in depth in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, so we see in Chaitanya Charitamrit, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami only covers them in brief. And some of the pastimes, like the childhood pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are covered in brief in Chaitanya Charitamrit, they are described in elaborate in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Like that it's described same in Chaitanya Mangal, those leelas which were not, or those pastimes which were not focused in Chaitanya Bhagavat and Chaitanya Charitamrit, those leelas are elaborated, or those pastimes are elaborated to some extent. Like one of the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking sannyas and his conversations with Vishnu Priya. So it's described, those kind of things are described in Chaitanya Mangal, and many other things are described. And there in the Chaitanya Mangal, Lochan Das Thakur, he prays for his Guru's blessings also, because he received the order from his Guru to write this scripture. So he writes there that my Lord and Master is Narhari Das. I prostrate myself in humility to him, may he fulfill my desires. So this is how he pays his obeisances to his spiritual master, and then he starts writing the scripture. Then he wrote this auspicious scripture called as Chaitanya Mangal. So all these three scriptures which described about the lives of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of the three are very important, very amazing scriptures, and very auspicious for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So apart from this, we know about this pastime, we know about his composition, and as we were discussing, one of his amazing bhajans that is there, Parama Karuna Pahudhui Janna, which is described. Prabhupada also gave a very amazing purport, or very amazing purport on this composition. So we'll try to discuss something on this. So first we'll sing this bhajan once, and then we'll try to discuss something on this. Parama Karuna Pahudhui Jana Nitaye Gaura Chandra. 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 Sab avatara sara shiromani kevala ananda kanda. Sab avatara sara shiromani kevala ananda kanda. Sabhavatara Sarashiromani Kevalananda Kanda
Sabhavatara Sarashiromani Kevalananda Kanda
Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudhira Vishwas Kori
Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudhira Vishwas Kori
Vishaya Chadiya Sirate Madhiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari
Vishaya Shakya Sirase Madhiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari
Dekho re bhai Tribhuvane nai Emona doyal data
Dekho re bhai Tribhuvan He Mona Doyal Data
Pashu Pakhi Jure Pashana Vidare Suni Jana Guna Gata
Pashupaki Jure Pasana Vyare Sunijana Gunagata
Samsare Majhiya Rohiri Poriya Sepade Nahi lo Asha
Samsare Madhiya Rohiri Koriya Se Payani Do Asha
Apana Karama Bhunjay Samana Kaho Lochan Dasa
Apana Karama Bhujay Sapana Kaho De Lochana Dasa
So this is very very amazing composition by Lochan Das Thakur. It's described all the things he composed, even the Chaitanya Mankal he composed. He composed in a meter form, like everything can be sung. Even the entire Chaitanya Mangal, I was hearing that the Bengalis, they can sing it in a very very kirtan, a very very amazing meter form. He composed everything. And same way all his bhajans also we also see very very amazingly he has composed. So we'll try to see what Prabhupada spoke about this verse and what all different things he spoke. So here it says Parama Karuna Pahuduin Jana Nitaya Gaura Chandra. So he is talking about these two personalities, or Lochandas Thakur is speaking about these two personalities who are Parama Karuna, or who are very very extremely merciful personalities. And who are these two personalities? He is saying these are Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, Nitaya Gaur Chandra. And he is saying these are my two masters. Or these two personalities who are the most merciful, they are my two masters.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare
discussing about this verse or this composition, the amazing kirtan, that amazing bhajan which Lochan Das Thakur composed. So here he is talking about these two merciful personalities, Parama Karuna Pahu Dui Jana, that they are my only masters. And then he says, Saba Avatar Sara Shiromani Kevala Ananda Kanda. So he is saying that in all the avatars of the Lord. So now we know the Lord avatars, Lord incarnates in many, many different forms. As in Brahma Samhita we have that shloka, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtha, Nana Avatar Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu. That Lord, he incarnates in different avatars. He incarnates as Lord Ram, who is called as Maryada Purushottam. He incarnates as Lord Krishna, who is known as Leela Purushottam. And then he incarnates as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Prem Purushottam, who is the one who spreads Krishna Prem throughout. And here he is saying that he is the grace jewel of all incarnations, Sara Shiromani. That this incarnation of the Lord in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or in the form of both these personalities, Nityanand Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are the very, very merciful, most merciful incarnations. And in all of the compositions of different acharyas, we'll see the same thing being repeated again and again. That how Lord has many, many different incarnations, and we glorify all those incarnations in different ways. But when it comes to spreading the mercy throughout like anything, or being most merciful, that title is given to these incarnations. Even Narottam Das Thakur's, we sing that bhajan, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Daya Karo Moire, Tuma Binad Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsare. That who apart from you, there also is saying, who apart from you is merciful in this entire world, who is the entire universe. So here he is praying that you are the Shiromani of all of the avatars, you are the most grace jewel of all the avatars, and you are the most merciful of all the incarnations of the Lord. And then he says, Kevala Ananda Kanda. That if we follow these teachings, if we follow the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, if we follow the teachings of all our acharyas, then if a person actually advances, then there is only bliss in his life and nothing else. How these personalities, they are in bliss, they did their pastimes, and one who follows them, they will also be in complete bliss. As we see in the Shikshashtakam also, we recite on a daily basis, Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam. That as a person advances more and more in spiritual life, his bliss or his Ananda also keeps on increasing. And why these personalities are called as merciful? Because they have distributed that Ananda, they have distributed their bliss freely throughout to everyone. They have made this Bhakti mark very, very easy by following these processes which we follow, by chanting the holy names and the different processes we follow. And that is why they are called as the most merciful personalities. So then he speaks in this verse, Bhaja Bhaja Bhaye Chaitanya Vinitaye Sudrida Vishwasa Kori. So here he is saying that we have to take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, Bhaja Bhaja Bhai, we have to worship them. And very, very important thing he says, Sudrida Vishwasa Kori, that we have to have full faith in them, that just by chanting their holy names, just by chanting the names of Lord Krishna, or just by following what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has told us, we can attain the ultimate goal of life. There is no other mantra, there is no other technique that is needed. Only the techniques that are given by our acharyas, only the techniques that are given by these personalities. If we follow them, if we just chant their names and worship them in that technique, then we can attain the highest perfection of life. And that is what he is saying, Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitaya Sudrida Vishwas Kori. And then he says, Vishaya Chadiya Se Rase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. So he is saying one thing, he is making very, very clear that one thing we have to give up. Oh, there is only one thing that has to be given up if we actually want to advance in devotional service, and that is Vishaya. Vishaya means sense gratification. One thing that has to be given up, which is actually the conclusion not just of this bhajan, of any bhajan or any scripture, that one thing that is a blocker in the advancement in spiritual life, and that is the sense gratification that is there. And that is the one thing that has to be given up. We see when it comes to pastimes of Rishabdev in Srimad Bhagavatam, for example. There also he says, he tells his son to do something. There also that famous shloka we quote, Tapo Divam Putraka Yena Sattvam Shuddhet Yasmad Brahma Saukhyam To Anantam. There also he is telling that you have to practice austerity. He is not telling that you have to engage in sense gratification, you have to enjoy. There also he tells his 100 sons that you have to practice austerity. Or you have to practice penances. Why you have to practice? To purify your existence. You have to give up sense gratification and you have to practice these austerities because you have got the human form of life. And suppose if they ask what will be the effect of practicing these austerities, why we should practice? So there also he says, Brahma Saukyam to Anantam. That only then you will be able to experience that Brahma Saukya or the bliss in devotional service if you practice those austerities. And same way recently we are discussing the conversation between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva. There also Vyasadeva has given so many different ways in the scriptures of performing legalized sense gratification, or how a person can perform legal sense gratification. But then great acharyas or great devotees, they condemn even that. And that is why Narad Muni was condemning even Vyasadeva left and right for all those things he has given in the scriptures. Even though they are all dharmic, they are not sinful activities. But still Narad Muni condemns all those things as sinful activities. Because ultimately to attain the highest perfection of life, be it legal or be it illegal, one has to give up sense gratification altogether. And that is what here he is saying also. That is what Lochan Das Thakur is saying, that Vishaya Chariya Se Rase Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. That one has to chant the holy names and he has to give up the sense gratification. Only then he can advance in spiritual life. And furthermore he says, Dekho ore bhai tribhuane nai emona dayala data. Pashu paki jure pashana vidare shuni jara gunagata. So then he is proclaiming to everyone that there is no one more merciful or more great than these two personalities in the entire three planetary systems. Tribhuane means the entire Bhurloka, the higher planetary systems, lower planetary systems. In the entire world, there is no personality as merciful as these two personalities. And then he is telling the real incident. Then he is telling how these personalities are more merciful, most merciful. He is telling Pashu Paki Jure Pashana Vidare Shuni Yana Guragata. They are so great personalities that even when the trees, when these creepers, they hear about the glorification of the lordships, about the glorification of these personalities, even they become jubilant. And even the stones melt when they hear the glorification of these personalities. Such great are these personalities. And we have many such examples which happened in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we know when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was on his trip to Vrindavan, when he was traveling to Vrindavan, and he goes to the forest of Jharikhand. Very amazing set of pastimes that happened, which actually describes this verse which Lochan Das Thakur is saying, that how even the Pashu, the animals became jubilant, the trees became jubilant, just hearing the holy names. So there in that pastime, it comes that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was traveling to that solitary forest, so he didn't wanted any other devotee to come with him. All the other devotees of Bengal, everyone wanted to join Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I want to go alone. Then they all requested, at least you take one devotee with you. And then Balbhadra Bhattacharya was the one who was with him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his travel to Vrindavan, or in that forest in Jharikhand. So now it's described when they were going through that forest and Lord was chanting the names of Krishna. That time they saw many tigers in the forest, many elephants in the forest. Now seeing all of that, Balbhadra Bhattacharya became very worried, very fearful. What will happen now? But Lord was just fearless. Lord was just chanting the names of Krishna, chanting the holy names. And it's described when they were walking through this forest, when they were walking through those animals gave way to them. They sat on one side and they were actually passing by. They did nothing to them. And one day very interesting pastimes come that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his bliss, in his ecstasy, he was chanting the names of Krishna. And there was one tiger who was sitting in the forest, tiger who was lying down in the forest. And Mahaprabhu kicks him, or Mahaprabhu puts his feet on the tiger and he says, you chant the name of Krishna. And it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita that even the tiger started dancing and he also started chanting the names of Krishna. And like that many pastimes comes. One more pastime in the forest comes that once Mahaprabhu was in the waters, he was chanting his Gayatri. And that time many mad elephants who go wild, they were roaming around in that place and they all came in the water. Again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's assistant Balbhadra Bhattacharya, he was again very worried, what will happen now? And this kind Mahaprabhu just splashed water on these elephants and then he told them the same instruction that you chant the names of Krishna. And these elephants, it's said that even they started experiencing those symptoms, or they started manifesting those Ashta-sattvic Vitar, which we call, and they also started chanting the names of Krishna. So this is what we can see in this prayer as Lochan Das Thakur is saying, Pashu Paki Jire Pashana Vidare Suni Janara Gunagata. That even the elephants, even the tigers, they were also chanting the names of Krishna and they were also blissful. Another pastime when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was leaving the forest is described that the tigers also started following him. or tigers also started following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And along with the tigers, one very surprising thing was the deers also started following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now tigers and deers, we don't see them together ever. Deers always run away from the tiger, but here there was a different atmosphere that was created. Here the tigers and deers all were walking together, all were following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or all were just completely surrendered and following in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's described when Mahaprabhu all saw this atmosphere, how these animals are walking together, they are not fighting amongst each other, they are completely non-envious. He remembered Vrindavan. Or he remembered the atmosphere of Vrindavan, because how we glorify Vrindavan, that everyone who is in Vrindavan, even the animals in Vrindavan, they are non-envious of each other. And Mahaprabhu, he was in this forest, but just by his presence, he made it like Vrindavan. And all the animals who were there, they became non-envious, they were with each other, and they were following the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is how it's described, that all these different personalities, even the animals, they also started chanting the names of the Lord. When the trees and the creepers, they heard Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanting the names, they also became very, very happy. They also became very, very jubilant when they heard him chanting. And it's described even the peacocks and all the birds, they also started chanting and dancing just by hearing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the power of holy name which Lochan Das Thakur is writing here, that Pashu Paki Jhure and Pashana Vedare, that the power is so much that even the stones melt just by hearing the chanting of the holy names. And we have many such pastimes. We have the pastime in Alarnath. When Mahaprabhu ran, when the Jagannath altar was closed and he was not able to get the darshan, and he runs to a place called as Alarnath. And there it's described, when he was going towards the deity, he fell on that stone. And there that stone is still there, which got melted because of his body, because of the ecstasy that was there in the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that melted stone we saw when we went on the theatre, that melted stone with those spots of the hands of Mahaprabhu and everything is there. So this is how even the stones melt when they hear the glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they hear the glorification of the holy name. And this is what he says, that Shuni Janara Gunagata, when anyone hears about the glorification of these personalities, everyone becomes jubilant. When these animals, these creepers become jubilant, what to speak about human beings? Those human beings who take to this path or who also start chanting, they also become very, very jubilant. And the same thing we see once it happens in the conversation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur also. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he asked Haridas Thakur that how will all these living entities, how will all these non-moving entities get delivered? Just like there are trees, there are plants and all these entities, they cannot chant the holy names. The animals, they cannot chant the holy names. So how will they be delivered? So of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows everything, but still he is asking Haridas Thakur to know the glories of the holy name. And there Haridas Thakur says that just by the loud chanting of the holy names, just by your chanting or just by the loud chanting of the holy names, all these personalities will be delivered. The trees, the plants, the animals, everyone will be delivered just by hearing those holy names. This is the amazing glory of these holy names. Of course, this loud chanting, when we are on Sankirtan, we should do this loud chanting. When we are chanting Japa, we should chant slowly. But when we chant loudly in Sankirtan, then all these entities are also delivered. And then finally we see, and this we can see in the example of Prabhupada also, how when he went to the West, and when he came back to India, he was asked, what is the reason of your success, how you were able to be so successful? And Prabhupada just said that, I just distributed prasad and chanted the holy names. And there in the West, those personalities, all those hopis, they were not different from animals, they were just like animals. And they were also delivered, they also became great devotees, just by the hearing the holy names. So that is what is mentioned here, that just by hearing the glorification of holy name, all the personalities are delivered. And finally he says, Samsare majiya rohili poriya se pade nahilo asha apana karama bhunjaye samana kahoe lochana das. So here in the last verse, Lochan Das, he's expressing his lamentation, expressing sadness. He's telling that I cannot give up sense gratification. I am stuck in this material world and I am attached so much to sense gratification that I have no attraction to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. I have no attraction at all because I am so much stuck in this material world. And then he says that Yamraj, the superintendent of that, he's punishing me constantly. He's punishing me again and I'm not able to get attracted to this movement because I'm stuck in this sense gratification again and again. So here it's one thing is very, very clear when he's saying Lochan Das Thakur that he cannot give us sense gratification, that is not actually true. That is the mode of humility, or he's expressing his humility like that I'm so much stuck in sense gratification, but it's mentioned for our learning. So that we can learn that how we are stuck in sense gratification, and that is the only reason we are not attracted to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or lotus feet of the Lordships. Because we are stuck in this world and we are attracted to this, all these sense gratification activities. But when it comes to these great personalities, definitely they are above that. They are not attached to all these things. That's just their humility. Even we see the humility of any Acharya when it comes to Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. So it's described that he also said that I have so many bad qualities in me that no one should chant my name. So no one, even if someone chant my name or speak my name, all his good qualities will be vanquished. I have so many bad qualities inside me. So again we can understand it's not that they have such bad qualities, but it's the mood of Acharya, mood of humility they are showing, that how they are so humble that they feel that even a little quality, little bad quality in them, that also appears to be very, very great to them, or that also appears to be a big disqualification for them. And that is why we see how the great mood of humility, the same mood which here in the Lord Shiva prayers also we saw, the mood of humility is there, that even though they were very, very great devotees, they are expressing that humility, that they are stuck in this cycle and they have no hope for them, except for the mercy of these great personalities. So here we can see when we read all these works of these great acharyas, when we read all the bhajans composed by these great acharyas, one thing we can learn is we can understand the mood of these acharyas, that what mood they had, with what mood they were living their lives, and how they actually practiced the devotional service. And always we'll see in their pastimes, always they considered themselves to be fools. Even though they were very, very great scholars, in front of their spiritual masters, in front of great personalities, they considered themselves to be fools. Basically always ready to learn, always in that mode of humility and always ready to learn more and more. And this is how we see that this is not like someone might say that this is all duplicity, they are all saying all these big things, that they are fallen, they are attached to sense gratification. But this is all just externally they are saying, they also internally know they are very, very great devotees. But it's described that it's not a mood of humility externally, but they actually feel themselves very, very low. They actually feel themselves very, very humble, and that is what they express in all those bhajans. Even when it comes to Prabhupada, when he preached throughout the world, when he preached and when he got so much success, he just said that I didn't do anything, I just endeavored to follow the instructions of my guru or my spiritual master. And that is the secret of my success. He didn't say I was a very great scholar or I was a very great preacher or something like that. He just said that I just tried executing the instructions of my spiritual master, and that is the reason for my success. So same way we can understand about ourselves, that how we are stuck in this material world, how we don't have any attraction for these great personalities, and this is why we are suffering in this world. And on these great days, on these days of the appearance day of these acharyas, since they had so much attraction for the lordships, since they had so much attraction for the lotus feet of the lordships, they were so much advanced in devotional service. So we can try to understand their mood and we can beg for their mercy, that if they shower their mercy on us, if they be merciful to us, then we can also get some attraction to the lotus feet. So we can pray to these great personalities, we can pray to Lochan Das Thakur that he showers his mercy on us, and we also get some attraction to the great merciful personalities, or to these dual personalities, that is Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because only when our attraction towards these personalities increases, then only we can give up the material sense gratification. Otherwise, we'll just be engaged in these activities. So with this, I would like to end here. And I think we can take questions. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, लोचन दास ठाकुर की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।